So let me start the recording. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so as you see over here, and so if you go to your AWS console and if you go to the services, then you will see a list of services over there. And yes, at the first first row, first column, you will find the last row is of developer tools. So this includes of CodeStar, Code Commit, Code Build, Code Deploy, Code Pipeline, Cloud9, and X-Ray. So I'll just brief you about all these tools. So CodeStar is basically a tool which, for example, if you are new to development, you can use it. It will have all the features which you need, and it will be means it will build pipeline for you, and it's quite easy to start with it. And means you can integrate your ID over here only. So Cloud9 is one of the ID provided by AWS. So you can integrate it over here and you can start coding over here also, instead of coding on your machine. So, or if you want to code on machine and push it to GitHub, you can use it, and then you can connect your code to means your cloud code star. So to start with, they have a lot of means application. They have a lot of templates available. You can start with any of the template which you want. And for example, say you want to just start a web app. So web app, if you click on over here, the category, then you will see a lot of means web app templates available. So Ruby on Rails, Laravel, Django, ASP.NET. So there are a lot of them. So according to your convenience, you can use any one of them and start your building your own application. Also, if you prefer any language, you can select from the left-hand tab, like you select HTML5 and Python, so it will be selected by default Django. So this is how you can filter everything. And these are the services where this will be hosted. So for example, you want to go serverless, you can simply select Lambda. So currently Python doesn't have basically serverless means currently it is not integrated with Lambda. These templates are not integrated means Python template. So you can simply connect using Node.js or Golang. And I can simply, for example, I want to create using your Node.js application. So I'll create a Node.js application. I'll provide any default project name, like I'll provide it as Meetup Pune Dev Tool Demo. Okay. So there will be a repository which will be created over here. It will have the code also. You can means once your first deployment is done, you can simply push it. So I'm using currently I'm using code commit. If you don't want to use code commit, you can configure your GitHub also. So it's up to you what you choose. So for this demo, I'll choose code commit, and then I'll move to next state. So as you see, it has created all the pipeline for you. So it means like my code commit is from where I'll be pushing the code. Then I have code build, which will be which will compile my code and push it to the servers. So currently my server means I'm using I think serverless AWS Lambda, so it will push the code to Lambda functions. It will modify the Lambda functions, and also it will test. So as you can see, means this is quite separation between means like code build is in this two phases, build and test phase. Then for deployment, I'm using Cloud Formation. So these are by default selected. So you need not to worry about all the services. If you are new to AWS, you can use this service called Code Star. So everything will be done by AWS. So using a template, you can simply create your complete architecture. So now I'll simply click on create project. Then it will ask means to which tool you want to integrate. So this one AWS Cloud9 is a service provided by AWS. So the ID is available in AWS. You can directly connect with it, or you can use your Eclipse and connect with it. So, but these tools will require configuration. However, AWS Cloud9, since it is on cloud, it will not require any means configuration. It will automatically configure. In these three, you will have to manually configure. So for now, I'll use AWS Cloud9. Now, if you see at the bottom, it will be, yeah, means it is cloning. Okay, so it has cloned the, means it has provided the clone URL. So if you are means using Git, you can simply copy it and then get configure your Git, and you can directly clone this repository into your machine, and you can start working on it, and you can push your code, pull your code, modify your code, and you can also use AWS Cloud9, which will be by default in your in your AWS. Um, so you can use that also. So I'll move to the next state. So it will provide, for example, my application for demo, I want to use a free tier. So it will be T2 micro. Otherwise, you can select your, means up to your, according to your convenience, you can select other types. It means there are a lot of types. So according to your architecture, you can select. Uh, for now, I'll select T2 micro, and means I can also name my environment. And this is like, means for example, this is a demo project, right? So I want this to be shut down after, means like after demo is done. So I can simply click on this, or like after 1 hour you can click it. So after that it will be simply shut down, and means I'll be charged for, I think, 1 hour, or depending on what architecture you choose, what server you are choosing. So it will be according to that. So now I'll simply move to the next state. The next state is nothing but it will create my complete code star. So complete project will be created, URL will be provided, and I can use the ID of Cloud9. So it's quite easy. Means it's like if you are quite new to AWS, you can simply connect with this service and you can start building your applications. However, if you are quite means familiar with development and all, you can set up all these things manually. So you see, my complete project is getting means configured, and it is getting deployed. So once the project is done, you can means connect with it with Cloud9, and you can see the code available over here, over there, and you can also edit those things. Okay. So if you have any question in Cloud 9, sorry, Code Star, you can ask me, or else I'll move to the next service. So if you have any question, you can ask about Code Star, or else I'll move to the next service. Okay. Next service now. So as you can see that I have um, deployed my application means using Code Star. So now I can simply start coding over there. So as you see, I think it is taking some time to get deployed. So once the deployment is ready, you can go to the ID, that is Cloud9, and you can start coding over there. So it generally takes some time to set up everything. So once the setup is done, you can move to Cloud9, and you can start start coding over there. So currently, I think my environment is getting ready, so it will be done in some time. So yeah, so this is about your cloud code star. So as you say, now means my complete code star has deployed. So I can start uh, coding. Okay, so I'll move to Cloud9. So it will simply give my complete means code which was deployed into my cloud. For now, say that I have only README, and then I have a folder called Meetup, and there are few files. Like means I deployed Node.js application, so this is a complete Node.js folder deployed over there. So you can directly code over here. You can simply deploy it. Like means over here is run. You can simply click on run. You can directly run those code and you can deploy it. So it will be automatic. If you want to do in your own machine, once you push the code to code commit, it will automatically deploy your application to your servers. So it's quite easy. Means there's nothing much to worry about this. If you click on this view my application, then my sample application is deployed. So as you see, this is the sample application which I deployed. Current one, so I'm using so code star. So this is a serverless application. So means it's quite easy. Means it doesn't need too much configuration. It is easy for beginners. So and the control, you need not to worry about the configuration. So if you want, you can launch your microservices using code star, and it will scale automatically if you want. So you can configure all those things. If you want to give access to your team, you can go to the left hand side team, then you can add a team member, and so you can give permissions, what kind of permission you want. So there are a lot of options available over here. So code deploy like means currently I simply all these things were done automatically by the AWS by using CodeStar. Otherwise, you can, if you are is quite familiar, you can do all these kind of steps um, on your own. So yeah, so now I'll move to the next service, that is code commit. So AWS code commit is nothing but your Git. So here you can push your code, all the commands that work on GitHub works over here. So it's similar to that. So you can simply create your repository, and always remember when you are creating a repository uh, and means you are giving permission to some people, then the IAM role should be according to that. So as you see, I think I have already created three repositories. This one is today just which was created by Code Star. So as you see, means this is automatically created. If I had to create my own repository, then deploy the first architecture. So those kind of things were automatically done. This done by the Code Star. Okay, so there's nothing much in this service. You can say that it is just a copy of Git services. Then you can move to your code build. So this service you can use to build for example, once you push, uh, sometimes you will need certain code to be run for automated testings, or you want those code to be deployed once they pass the test. They should be deployed to certain servers. So those kind of jobs you can do using this service, the code build service. So this is quite useful service, and yeah, means it and the beauty of the service is all configuration you can do in one file called buildspec.yml file, or if you don't want to use the name buildspec.yml, simply you can create your own file, means YML file I prefer. You can create JSON also, and you can upload into your repository, and you can simply give the path from where you want to call this uh, call this service. So let me show you one of the examples which I created, I think, in last meetup. So if I go to means my uh, yeah, over here. If I go to my build spec, so here you can simply configure, means give a file name, and you can provide this file name over here. So by default, it is buildspec.yml, and it is in the root directory. So if you want to provide it into a different directory, you can write like config, and then if I want to give it name as like build.yml, then I can give it. So it's up to you. Means you can configure it, or you want to write your own commands, you can do it over here. Now they have editor also, so it's you can see the means, variables and everything. So this is a sample buildspec.yml file over here. So if you are new, you can use insert as this option, insert build commands, and you can give your if you are using any variables, you can use provide them over here. And these are three phases, you can say, like pre-build, then build, and then post-build. And they have added means install. So for example, you want to basically this will be a bare server, right? Means it doesn't has anything. So you can simply means click on this means provide the options, like means which environment which build you want to, which packages you want to install, like you want to install npm, you want to install gcc, whatever package you want, you can write those commands over here. And then the versions also, and then you can move to like pre-build phases, like means before my build starts, I want my means build folder to be ready. So I'll write, if I'm having a react.js application being hosted, I'll write like npm start npm start build. So it will generate the build folder. Then like means once build folder is done, then I can write a command to push those build folder to my S3 bucket. So I'll write means S3 AWS CLI commands, like AWS S3, then CP, then the folders names where I want to push. And then once those push is done, for example, now my architecture is also using CloudFront. So in my post build, I can write like I can write the command to invalidate my CloudFront. So these three is up to you how you want to do it. So you can simply configure all these things. You can write your own commands. You can provide the artifacts which you want to use. You can uh, write the cache if you have, and provide the path of it. So this is quite easy. Means if you are using a means you are using the build provided by them, so you will have less errors also. However, you can write all these things into your Git repository, and you can push it. But the problem with pushing the Git repository is, suppose you don't want your certain team members to know which folder you are using, what is the path of S3, what is the invalidation ID, what are the environment names. So those kind of things you can achieve by using this insert build commands. So instead of using build buildspec.yml file and pushing to your Git, you can use this. So it will be a more secure. So okay, so yeah, so I'll discard this, and now I'll move to another feature of this. So yeah, means for generating a build, means code build, you need to configure your pipeline. So again, means it will be a Git, basically where the code lies. So you can provide that, and then you can configure, and then you can provide the environment variables and then artifacts. So to understand better, I'll give you an example. So for example, now I want to create a build. Okay. So I'll configure a build, I'll create the project name. So if you want, you can create your new build. And here is the source. So you can provide the source name. Let me start a new build. So here means you can provide a name of the project like Meetup. Okay, dev tools. Then you can provide the source of your code. So there are a lot of options available. You can connect with Bitbucket, GitHub, AWS S3, or you can use GitHub Enterprise. So if you have hosted your own Git, you can use it. So, and then you can provide the repository. So for example, I have this Meetup repository over there. You can do it. Then this like means what depth of Git you want to use. So by default, it is 1. Then you can provide the operating system on which this code will be deployed. So for example, you want to run a test case, and then you need to provide the like means if your complete architecture in Ubuntu, you can provide Ubuntu, or you are using Windows, you can provide Windows as well. So it's up to you where you want to host your main application. Then you host the build according to that. You can now write standard, then image. So by default, I use 1.2. I think 2.0 is quite new. So your build spec.yml will be, should be according to that. So otherwise, you can use 2.0 image version, standard code build, standard 2.0. And you can also means use yeah, always remember to give the proper role. So for example, your build need the permission of having pushing the code to S3. So you can your this role should have the permission to push the code to S3. So these kind of things you need to take care of. And once you are done it, you can simply provide the build spec.yml file name. If you don't, if you are using means by default build spec.yml, then you can leave it blank. So it's optional. So if you're as I told means you can means provide your own commands. You can switch to editor. You can provide your own commands. You can write everything out here, and you can move to the next step. So again, basically it's like means if you have any keys, you can provide it. So all these things are optional. So in order to start, you can skip all these things. Yeah, and you can simply click on this button, create build project. So it will start building your project. So it's quite easy and it's quite, means, it doesn't take that much time, but always when you are deploying, then you need to worry about where the code will go. So all those kinds of stuff you need to take care of. So if you have any question in code build, you can ask, or else we'll move to the next step. Okay. So for now, I'll pause the screen.
Hi,
Yeah, hi.
this is Rajesh here. Actually, I was curious, like for building, is it using some internal script or is it Maven build or anything of that sort?
Yeah, means it is like means the file where I told, right? Means which I showed buildspec.yml. Let me show you once again.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like means a command. So means you can write means you can think of it as a server. So where you
Okay.
have to provide the commands. So it, for example, I have created one. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. details. Yeah. So here, so it can be means this will be not means mavel kind of commands. It can be any command. Like means, for example, if you are hosting Rails application, right,
Okay.
and you want to test it, so
Okay.
you can write means over here you can write like rspec commands like that simply. So like you can write Rails test, but in order to run these commands, you will need these
Okay.
packages, right? So
Okay.
you can put those things in install phase. Okay.
So
So yeah, go ahead.
so the basic build will be done by the tool itself. Like if we are
Yeah,
making a web-based application, it will have its own script to build the war file.
yeah, correct.
Okay, and so once you write this build, it's going to give you the war file and everything, is it? Or you have to write all the commands just like we do in case of Maven or in case of Ant script?
Yeah, you'll have to write your own commands. Means complete means what steps are there. So like means you can push those means command means you can also write those commands into one file and you can run those commands using means whatever suits you.
Okay,
So
so we
it's
have to write from compilation, is it? Or how is it?
you can think of it as a means you can think that this is a bare server
Okay,
with which has nothing installed. Okay,
okay, yeah,
so means in order to means run those tests,
uh-huh.
run those builds, you need to provide everything.
Okay,
So including because it will provide means what happens is like means when you push anything to code build, it
uh-huh.
provides an like in a server. So you can it's up to you which server, which kind of server you want,
Okay,
and all these commands which you provide in this, right? Those will be run on those server.
okay, okay. It's just
And
like a batch file or shell script that we
yeah,
run.
correct,
Okay,
correct.
okay,
And once it fails, you will
uh-huh.
get means like you will get to means like what do you call UI where it will be written like failed. So you can configure it using means this is a status, right? It will be failed. So
Okay,
anything failed means, for example, any package installation is means it fails. Then also the status will be failed.
okay, okay, fine.
So means it's like complete means complete testing. So it will test everything so that nothing breaks on your production.
Okay, fine, fine.
So yeah. So if you have any other doubt, you can ask.
So we can maybe instead of writing the commands, we can directly trigger the Maven build maybe. So we already have a script. Our editors will be creating a script like uh, maven.xml or whatever build.xml. So we can also write those commands, right?
Correct, you can write it, but that you means that command you can write any command, but those commands should be able to run on the server. So if
Server.
you need, yeah, means if you need anything to be pre-processed, like means pre-packages installed, then you have to write those also.
Okay, okay, all right,
So
all
it's
right.
like that. Okay. Thanks. Any other question?
Yeah, so it's way there.
Yeah.
So
Hi.
on yeah, so on the top of the previous question, so suppose if we want to have the Maven or the Gradle build, so do we have any plugins that we need to add in this code build? Because as far as my knowledge is concerned in Jenkins, we used to externally add the plugins.
Yeah, means here also you will have to means add all dependent plugins. And because even think of like means how you means run those commands when you get means your a new system. So for example, it's like you buying a new it means system every time. So those commands will not run, right? You need to have those packages installed before running, right?
Okay.
So it's like that. Means it provides simply a new system, like new environment, new virtual machine,
Okay.
and in which all those commands will be run. So by default, your virtual machine may or may not have all those configured, right? So
So
it will simply come up with like if I'm using a what do you call say you Ubuntu system, so it will simply have Yum packages, not even what we call Rails or Ruby installed in it. So I'll have to install those packages before means starting. So all those packages you will have to install before starting any build. Otherwise, your build will fail.
Where
So
exactly I need to go to add those plugins?
yeah, so basically those plugins should be means those plugins. If you have hosted it on GitHub or somewhere, you can simply pull it and you can start working on that.
Okay. Thank you.
So if you guys want, we can have a detailed session on code build itself. So in future, that's why I think I shared a poll. So you can write which service you want. So if you want, I can simply give a proper complete code build session with Maven or any other tool. So I think that will be quite helpful, right? Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. So if you have any question, I hope that answered your question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone has any question, please ask. Okay. So I'll now move to code deploy. So it's nothing but once you simply provide means like you can configure um, n number of servers where you want to deploy the code. You can even auto scale. All those kind of stuffs are deal in over here. So it's like deploying your code to instances or any auto scaling group. So as you see, means when I started with CodeStar, so this was automatically created. So as you see, means over here, there's only one instance. So for like means if you want to have a blue-green test, blue-green let's say deployment, you can use it. Means multiple servers, you can use it. So let me start a new one. So Meetup Pune. Okay. So here you can means you can provide which platform you want. So like if you want to have certain servers, you can use EC2 on premises. Or if you want container services, you can use ECS. If you want to use AWS Lambda, you can go ahead and use it. So for now, I'll click on this EC2 on premises. Then I'll move to means my build. Then it will ask means how you want to build. Means do you want to create a new deployment group? So if you want, you can use it. For that, you need to create a new deployment group. So I'll write meetup dev tool. Then you can provide which service you want to use in service roles. So always remember the roles should have the permission to perform the action which you want. So for example, if I use, I think I have given permissions, proper permission. So for example, if I have only access to code commit, I don't have access to EC2. Then I can't perform any action on EC2. So in that case, your deployment will means never happen because you don't have the permission to means deploy those code. So as you see, means it's like there are two options of deployment available over here. One is in place. So it will means once for example, if there is a pre-built state, once that is passed, it will simply deploy to all the instances. Means, and if you use blue green, so you will have means like multiple instances. If you have, it will be one by one, and then as you see means means a registered load balancer and then original environment. So it's means I always prefer blue green over in place. So you can means copy means auto scaling, or you can provide your own auto scaling group if you have. So currently I think I have not created any auto scaling group. So you can create your own auto scaling group and you can deploy your application to that group. And according to the load or means For example, if you are handling your auto scaling according to your RPM, then you can, means according to as the request goes, and those new servers will be added. So it will be, means quite easier and less painful. For example, if due to some reason your server load increases in a day to like from 1,000 to 1 million. So if you have created your auto scaling group, it will automatically increase those instances, and once the use of those instances is, means those instances are like, means the load is decreased and those instances are useless, then those instances will be shut down. So this kind of things are done using our EC2 auto scaling. And means here are certain other options, means like how you want to reroute. So for example, when you are deploying, so how it will be rerouted. So it depends on your choices. So by default, you can select to reroute traffic immediately once it is deployed, and you can use it. So again, you can configure load balancer. So application load balancer is quite, means ahead of classic load balancer. So I prefer, for example, means in classic load balancer, there are very less option to customize. So if you want to use WebSockets, it will be painful if you are using classic load balancer. If you are using application load balancer, then you can simply load means all these means all, you can even map certain servers to certain URLs. So for example, you want www.x.com slash blogs to go to another server. So those kind of stuffs you can do using application load balancer. So it's quite better as compared to classic load balancer. So if you go to the advanced options, you will see a lot of triggers. So for example, now you want to send the email now when a server health is down, so you can, or your deployment fails. So all those kind of triggers you can create, and these are the means like options like events available. So whenever this event occurs, like the deployment starts, you can configure it to any AWS service. Like once you want to subscribe to an SNS, so or you want to write those logs into your DynamoDB, you can do all kind of stuffs over here. So it's up to you, means how you want to trigger those events. And yeah, so, and also you can set an alarm. So if you go to here, you can, means I have, it means, so for example, if read cap, for example, I want alarm to be set when my pricing goes. So those kind of alarms you can trigger separately. And if you want your CloudWatch, means for example, anything fails, you want to provide an alarm, so you can write it over here. So by default, you have to create your alarms first, and then you can attach it over here. So it's like that. Then again, means if you want to, for example, now means when my deployment fails, I want to roll back to the last stage. So you can do it using rollbacks. So whenever the threshold is met, it will roll back. Whenever deployment fails, it will roll back. So these kind of stuff you can configure over here. And by default, always remember that these rollbacks are disabled. So if your deployment fails, your server will go down. So those kind of stuffs you can take care from here. So I think, yeah, that's it in code deployment. So if you have any question in code deployment, you can ask. So in code pipeline, you can think of code pipeline as a means complete deployment process. So if you want, and it will come up with the multiple stages. So for example, if you want to have, one second. So for example, if you want to have a pipeline where the complete deployment and plus a manual approval need to be done, so you can do all those kind of stuffs over here. So it has by default multiple stages. So it has, I think, let me just create a new pipeline. So for that, you need to give the pipeline a name. Pune. And again, means this also need a role. So always remember, role should have those permissions which are required for code pipeline to work properly. So once you provide this, you can provide a source from where means the code will be pulled. So it can be GitHub, then S3, ECR, and then code commit. By default, I'll select code commit, which is nothing but means, as I told, it is nothing but a Git service available in AWS. And then you can select the branch from which you want to clone. And then there are two options to detect the change has happened. So one is like means this is like AWS code pipeline. This is like you can say continuously polling, and this is like event based. Like CloudWatch events are like event based. And then you can write your build provider. So if you have hosted your Jenkins, you can select a Jenkins, and then their URL, project name, or you can use code build. So for example, there's a lot of builds I have already created. So you can use any one of them. And then again means how I want to deploy it. So it can be Elastic Beanstalk, code deploy, cloud formation. So cloud formation is like means a set of instructions you have written, and it will be deployed according to that. Code deploys means you are deploying those code to multiple servers, and Elastic Beanstalk is like one place which has a lot of servers. You can means it's quite easy. Elastic Beanstalk is quite easier as compared to code deploy because it has all the pre-configured you can pre-configure everything, and once you push it to code Elastic Beanstalk, it will simply deploy everything to your related nodes. Those are the servers. Then opworks stack, then service catalog. Then for example, if you have any AWS skill set, if you are Alexa, if you work on Alexa, you can deploy your code to Alexa also. So you can automate all these kind of things. Then again, if you are using containers, you can use ECS and ECS Blueprint, similar to your code deploy on-premise and Blueprint. And then if you want to push it to your S3, you can configure it. So it will ask to which bucket you want to push the code. So all those things will be done over here. Once, for example, now I want to use code deploy. So it will ask which application, then I'll say that this, and then which deployment group, and move to next stage. So now once my pipeline is ready, I can simply click on this create pipeline, and the complete pipeline will be by default ready. So, and always remember that code pipeline is charged means per active pipeline. And you can means if, for example, now means I have written all these steps and I don't want this step, I can simply go it, disable it, not needed, and I can disable it. And for example, if I want any new what do you call new stage to be added, I can simply add it. Like means after deployment, I want notification, then I can create my own stage. So that will be means, and in this stage, I can use any service. So to use any service, you can use AWS Lambda, and you can write you can write what need to be done in that action. For example, if you want to send emails after each deployment, you can write the code in Lambda functions over there, and you can simply means save the stage. So once the stage is set, so once it reaches notification, it will send notification to your email address which you wanted. So I'll delete this pipeline. So yeah, means as you see, uh, so this is what we can do using code pipeline. You can say that using code pipeline, we can we can create multiple stages in which we want to deploy our code to several servers, and also you can put manual check. So you can if I go to, like, for example, this Meetup Pune group, means this thing, I can simply edit it. I can write like I want manual approval before building. I will simply add a stage and write manual, and then in this I'll select action provider as manual approval. So it will, whenever code is pushed, it will simply pop up a screen that you want to approve this or you want to reject it. So if you reject it, you can provide a reason of rejection, and the code will be not moved to the next stage. So it's quite a good service if you are like means working on multiple teams, and those are working on multiple features. You can just configure all those to one stage, and then you can work on it. So this is more about what you call code pipeline. So if you have any doubt, please ask. Yeah, sorry for that. So I think it will take some time to start. So in general means because it deploys instances, so it takes some time to start. So once it is ready, you can see that you can write your code. Means it's like a what do you call terminal window available to your server. So you can create your new files over here. You can create new folders. So like you can rename it. You can write your own code. Like I will provide it as a welcome folder, and in that I can provide one file, uh, index.html, and in that I can simply write some HTML code if I want. So it's, as you can see, that is like you're having a Sublime into your cloud. So you can write your own code over here. So depending on depending on language you want to use, you can use it. You can provide a complete code over here. You can write it. You can save it using Command S, and you can run it if you want. You can run it. So it will say, so if you have configured anything, so for example, I have not configured anything currently, so it will show an error. And if, for example, this is configured to your code, what do you call it, code pipeline, or like means code star. So once you change it and you run it, it will simply go to your code star, and it will the code will be deployed, and you can see the changes which are made. So it's quite a good service. If you don't want to use, means if you want to edit it in cloud, you can use it. And means if you don't want, you can use means your system to code. So I think that's it for this Cloud9. So if you have any question, you can ask.